Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at something very interesting. This is the first ever handheld video game console with interchangeable cartridges. It's called the MB Microvision, and this is by far one of the strangest game consoles I've ever seen, and I can't wait to get into it in this week's video. This is the console, and this is honestly unlike anything I've ever seen before. This was released in 1979, by the way, 10 years before the original Game Boy, and this is what it looks like. It is so strange. It's basically got a dial there that you can twist, and that is it. There's a screen at the back here, which unfortunately is a little bit kind of damaged, but I have managed to find a way of recording it, kind of, so hopefully it still works okay. And here's what the cartridges look like. As you can see, they just have windows inside them. Like, I can literally hold that up to the lens and you can't even tell there's anything there. And they have like these plastic buttons on here which respond to this touchpad area. You slide the cartridge in at the top like that, and then you just press down and it clips in place, and then there's your game. All of the CPU, all of the code and stuff is actually on the cartridge. There's nothing on the system itself apart from the screen, and it takes two 9-volt batteries, as you can see in the back there. And these are some of the weirdest and oddly basic yet also extremely overly complicated games that I've ever seen. I don't think they had any concept of what a good game design actually was, so I hope you're looking forward to taking a look at some of these games. I've actually got 5 of them. I have the Blockbuster one that was built in, and I also have 4 others on cartridge. We have Pinball there, and I love the fact they're all different colours. That is actually pretty cool. I have Shooting Star, which is a very, very basic one. I have this one called Space Blitz, which is my favourite of the bunch, although that's not really saying much. And I also have Bowling, which is the most simple rendition of bowling that I've ever seen in my life. So that is all the games. Let's take a look at them now, one at a time, starting with the first one, which came bundled with the system, called Block Breaker. And as you could probably guess, Block Breaker is nothing more than a very basic Breakout clone, apart from the fact that this is by far the worst rendition of Breakout that I've ever played in my entire life across any console or computer. For one thing, it moves way too fast for you to actually be able to respond for the ball as it's moving around on the screen. It is just incredibly fast, and the dial isn't really that precise, so out of about 10 attempts I actually only managed to hit the ball once, and because of the very, very limited resolution of the screen, you barely have any time to react. The block is only like 4 blocks away from hitting the top of the screen and then bouncing back down again, so it's almost impossible to play, and I didn't really manage to get any more than about 2 or 3 blocks down from the top of the screen. Maybe at the time, if you were a kid in the late 70s and early 80s and had absolutely nothing better to do, maybe you could try and make this work for you and maybe clear the screen, but honestly, I played it for about a minute, and then I had to play it again to capture some footage for this video, and that is the last time I will ever even think about this game, unless I'm doing another video on it in the future. But honestly, absolutely dreadful version of Breakout. Do not recommend at all, and I feel sorry for anyone who had to grow up with this console, honestly. Let's take a look at the next one. This is cartridge number 2, and this is Bowling. And again, just like the Breakout game before it, this is the most simple rendition of bowling that I've ever seen in my life. As far as I can tell, all you can do is throw the ball. So the ball is a black square, the pins are a row of black squares, and basically the ball comes in, moves across the bottom of the screen, and you just press one button to shoot the ball forward. And that is it. That's the entire game. That's all there is to it. There's like no physics to the bowling pins whatsoever. You just throw it in a straight line and the ones you hit in that line disappear. Maybe sometimes the one next to it disappears too. And that's all there is to it. I literally have nothing else to say about this game. It's fun for maybe a minute, and then I don't see why anyone would ever play this again, ever, honestly. So again, another potential for the worst game I've ever played in my entire life. But let's see whether things improved with game number 3. This one is called Shooting Star, and I do quite like the red cartridge that this comes with. It's a very bright and vibrant colour. But the game itself is honestly just as bad as the other two. So with Shooting Star, I was expecting it to be a very downscaled port of something like Space Invaders, but what we've got here is even more primitive than that. There's one enemy, if you can call it that, which moves from one side of the screen to the other. It's literally just a black line, and you have 3 different directions that you can shoot in, but it doesn't really seem to make any difference whatsoever. You can either press the button on the left, which shoots diagonally up to the right, you can press the button in the middle to shoot directly forward, or you can press the button on the right to shoot diagonally to the left. But either way, you get 1 bullet and you get 1 chance to hit the enemy as it's moving from one side of the screen to the other. So all you need to do really is just time it in line with the enemy in the middle of the screen, and you can never miss. So I don't know why you would ever choose to use any of the other shooting styles when you could just shoot straight forward, and that seems like the fastest and easiest one to time. So again, maybe this game's fun for a minute, but once you've hit the enemy a few times, there's literally nothing more to do here. So complete wasted opportunity of a game in my opinion. Now for cartridge number 4, this is Pinball, and this is Pinball in name only. This is Breakout without the blocks. It's exactly the same game, although it does seem to move slightly slower, so I could actually manage to hit the ball back up, but this is not Pinball. There's no pinball flippers, it just has a breakout paddle that you use the little dial to turn, and that's it. There doesn't seem to be a score or anything. There's 4 little white dots on the overlay on the screen, which the ball occasionally bounces off, or occasionally it just goes straight through them, and that's the entire game. You just let the ball go into the arena, bounce it off the paddle, if you miss, do it again. End of game. Again, maybe fun for 1 minute if you were like 3 years old in 1979, but honestly, complete waste of time. So let's move on to the only kind of good, decent-ish, mediocre, better than nothing game for the entire system. But bear in mind I haven't got all of the cartridges. This is cartridge number 7, so I have 2, 3, 4 and 7 as the separate releases, so maybe there's a hidden gem out there that I just don't know about yet. Let me know in the comments if you know anything more about the system, but let me tell you about Space Blitz, which I actually found to be kind of an interesting game on the system. So it's very unique actually, it's very hard to describe. So there's kind of different lanes going down the screen, and you move a little dot on the corner, but as you turn the dial, instead of moving, you actually change the size of your beam. It's basically like a tractor beam that comes out, and you have to turn the dial to match the length of the beam with the black dots that are coming from the right to the left, and you're constantly moving up and down. It was the most interesting and unique game of the bunch, and it is actually fairly fun to play. It was quite fast paced, and I really enjoyed tweaking the dial just the right amount in order to catch the enemies before they get all the way to the end of the screen. Kind of think of something like a more action focused Plants vs Zombies with none of the power ups or anything. Again, it's very simple, but I can actually see this one being quite fun and trying to beat your high score, so definitely the best of a bad bunch, but by no means a reason to buy the system. It'd be really interesting to see if any of you actually grew up with this, and let me know what your thoughts on this system are in general. Do you think it was good for the time? Do you think that it's stood the test of time considering the technology that was available? Bear in mind, nothing like this had been done ever before. This was the first thing with like a dot matrix screen, and Nintendo actually took inspiration from this in order to build the Game Boy a decade later. So there is a lot of really interesting history here, despite the obvious shortcomings of the games themselves. And Milton Bradley obviously didn't really think that much of it either, because there was never a follow-up to this, but it's been very interesting. Even if the games weren't very good, it's still a really cool item to have. I'm very happy to own it for the historical reasons, obviously. That's it for this episode though. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out more gaming history in this playlist over here, and I'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye.